right.
Welcome in.
Welcome back to Do It for the Story.
I'm Stacy.
I'm Morgan.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Diffs. Divas.
Season 2. It feels so good. What is this, our second season 2 episode?
Season 2. Yeah, we're a couple episodes in. So thanks for hanging with us.
Oh, wait. Is this our first or second? I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We're in season 2. So depending when this airs, we got a couple episodes for you. So it is, we're recording. We're back in our normal routine of, actually not even, we're recording on a Saturday. We usually do Sunday.
We have a baby shower tomorrow that we got to head to.
Baby shower tomorrow for our cousin.
Sweet cousin.
So excited. And we actually had some excitement earlier today. We just, a couple hours ago, we just did our my first cold plunge experience.
My second. But my first was months and months ago. I tried to start it in winter and it was too much. Our
neighbor, one of our other water girls, Elise, thank you for the cold plunge experience. It was great. So we did a cold plunge. How long did you stay in?
I did 3:10.
Okay. I did just 3 minutes or just shy of.
I was like the same.
3:10. 3 minutes submerged. But we were just saying before we turned on the mics that we were getting a little zany. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon recording time, but zany, like a little crazy feeling. At least I feel a little jittery, amped. Almost like, I don't know.
I've heard, Elise says it, but I've heard from other people too that it like gives you energy and everything. And I think for people that run on high energy already,
crazy energy, I feel giggly.
I feel like
I'm glad I did it on the weekend. Yes, because I do feel like a little bit where I'm like, I'm
kind of like, I need to go on a run and I don't run.
Yeah.
Woo!
But anyway, it's supposed to be great. It's supposed to be good for the body. Everybody, we hear it's the trendy thing, inflammation. And
we have all the inflammation issues. So
we love inflammation. Inflammation girls. Water girls. Cold plunge girls.
So we did the cold plunge. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. I took some great content. So we'll definitely be putting that up on the socials.
Yes.
But then last night, we went sailing for Elise's husband.
Yes, we did.
Tim. We did a nice little birthday sail over to Cantlers.
A nice little happy hour.
Yep. Great
little crew of us went over. Yeah, we did sailing, the Donahues.
Yep. And took the boat over to Cantlers.
Had some crabs.
If you know, you know. And we had crabs, had a great little birthday song, had a crab crowd, which was hilarious.
Sailed back to Port under the moonlight.
And
it was relaxing and we all needed it. It was, everybody seemed to be having a week where Friday ended at 5:30.
Yeah, Warren was
we were rushing
late because he was on
we
calls.
Call him out.
Well,
but we all were. I'm kidding. But it was great.
Of work. It
was a nice summer because we've all been. I say we all, like Morgan and I, and then some of our close friends, like our friend family here. We've all been doing the typical East Coast summer. If you know, you know, where you got to pack everything in.
Got to do it all.
It's good weather, pool, vacations, family things, friend things, picnics, graduations, weddings, yada, yada, yada. I know on the seaside, we don't have any more. Well, I say that, and then we may have just added a vacation. We don't have any more vacations that's scheduled.
I have 2 scheduled vacations. And one is the Labor Day, like our final. So anyway, so we're excited to be on the mic and fully into season 2. And one other thing I wanted to mention was was a total side note, but I complimented Stace on her top.
Oh, if you're watching, I'm wearing a tube top.
Yep, I immediately remembered. Oh yeah, that's a vintage top from 2005.
Take my hair off my shoulders so you can see my collarbone.
I'm dead.
I'm just kidding. But yes, this tube top I've had since 2005. I wore this this summer going into college.
Yep.
And I have a lot of random things that it's like if it's a basic top, a token thing. Yeah,
I have things from high school. Zero exaggeration that I wear. Like my overalls that I love, those are from high school.
Yeah, I have high school tops. I've got shoes, all of it. So anyway, yes, throwback. This is literally an American Eagle tube top. Don't care. And I'm wearing, these pants are not throwbacks, but Abercrombie did that rebrand.
Yep.
For all of us millennials. But anyway, so great. But thank you for the compliment.
No,
on top.
I just
Means
want
a
to
lot.
say, I love that it is a vintage piece, and
Rewear.
we've been thrifting since the 80s, and here we are.
Yeah, you like that,
Even
Gen
from
Z?
your
You've been getting a
closet.
fight with me at a thrift store for this top.
Oh, yeah.
Woo.
Someone would, if you walked into a thrift store right now, definitely someone from Gen Z would rip your shirt
They'd be
off.
like, "Oh my God, you thrifted that." I'm like, "No, honey, this is vintage." But speaking of Gen Z, and generations, we were in our preparation for this pod. We actually weren't going to podcast about this
No,
topic.
we weren't. We had done, okay, so we were doing a content prep. So while Brad, our producer, was on vacation, it forced us. We were like, okay, this is good. It'll force us
Yeah,
to
we got to get a queue of some episodes.
We'll do a rerun of the recruiter episode, and then we'll use that, time off, in quotes, to do content prep and planning.
Season 2.
So content prep and planning, not only were we have so many topics to talk about. It's less of like picking out topics and more of like literally when are we in Annapolis at the same time?
Yeah, but it's also like
and social media and like how are we promoting and are we doing email blasts and like so we were pulling together all of that to like continue to promote the pod and who do we need to network with. And so as we were like wrapping up this session, I was like, oh shoot, we got to talk, a couple more things on social that we needed to go through. And then
we were venting to each other.
Yeah, how we can't stand social media and how
which
that's
is
the hardest
funny
part.
too because someone actually it was our friend Tim asked last night, how do you come up with topics? What are you going to pod about next? And we said, we have like a long list of topics that we've brainstormed, and then we look back at our content calendar, see what we want to talk about. But also, just like with this, sometimes it gets derailed because there's something that's top of mind or that we've been through this week or whatever.
Or something that's like kind of, it's a topic that we've been wanting to talk about, but then it hits the news for some reason.
Right. Or we're like, oh, this thing happened. We should go with it. And
So that's
like
what
Morgan was saying,
time.
we were complaining like, oh, we got to do the social
Gotta do the
because
social piece,
that's
that's
our
one
least favorite part of the podcasting experience production.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Absolutely.
Because now granted, if I was, you listen, if you didn't listen, you should have. If I was back in my late teens, early 20s and was lifeguarding at the pool all summer, and that was my job, and I had a lot of downtime, I'd be crushing the social media right now. But for me personally, I'm staring at a screen. You too. We work from home, desk jobs. I'm staring at a screen 9 hours. And the last thing I want to do is get off of the computer to then pick up my phone or start the day picking up my phone before getting on the computer, to do the social media stuff.
Totally.
So that's hard.
Yeah, and then, it's all of that, and because of Angel, like, I can't have him seeing me scrolling, So, like, I don't want to do that in front of him. And not only seeing me, but also, like, that's our time. Like, if I'm for some reason scrolling around him, like, that's our time. So,
but also you don't want him, like, looking over your shoulder, even seeing what you're looking
like,
at.
It's so funny. One time, he had been watching, like, a Bluey or something, and so I was sitting there, like a mom rarely sit down, and I actually sat down.
Right.
And he jumps up on the couch after the episode, and I had Instagram open. He's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh, no. I'd like literally just acted like I didn't even hear him and just like put it away and like just moved on. He's genuinely no understanding of what social media is.
Thank God.
Yeah.
As he shouldn't, hopefully ever. But that's the thing. We were saying too in the topic when we were venting, like, oh, we have to do the social. And it's like, it can be fun, like, if you have time, but really, I think, again, for me, it's, being an ADHD girly, what's up to my neurodivergent friends, it is for sure, distraction, and it's a time suck. There's times I want to get on there just to do something for the pod, and then I'm like, shit, what was I doing? Because
if you open it, you can get distracted.
20 minutes have passed, and I'm like, legitimately, why did I open this thing? Now, why am I looking at this random freaking 70-year-old woman in Alabama who's showing me how to prune her hydrangeas?
Yeah.
And
I'll say, as you say that, there are certain things that I think social media are great for.
Yes.
That I think that I have, but it is very hard.
It's invasive.
It's invasive.
It's invasive. That's what it feels like. Because again, it's like And now we do for the pod. So not everybody, clearly if you're just using Instagram, social media for your personal preferences, you're using the app. We now use like Meta for Business or whatever platform.
I'm so excited about.
So we're not just so in the
we're not in it. You don't have to be in the account.
You know, we're making the posts on this other platform. So you're not in, yeah, exactly. You don't have that same urge, to scroll or, you know, look at the dopamine hits, the likes and all that.
Exactly.
So, but it's that, like, I'll pick it up for the pod and I'm down a rabbit hole, or then I'm seeing things in that mind space I didn't want to see.
Yeah.
Like I was coming on because I was specifically seeking out let me go look at that video I saved of the hydrangea woman.
Yeah, like I use it for hair stuff.
But I saw some political stuff that pissed me off. Or I saw some, I don't know, just something that even was funny.
And
I'm like, let me send this. And now I'm looking at the messages. And now I'm in a text chain. And now I'm like...
on my phone.
So we get it. So for me, the biggest thing is it's distraction.
100%.
And it just... and then... when I have those moments where I accidentally go like, you know, down that rabbit hole, I feel gross.
Yeah. Well, and before we started the pod, which we started, you know, really recording in February, I guess, I had actually been off social media. I was allowed to open social media for, like, and these are mental allowed, like, you know, my own parameters. Because I talked to my therapist about it too. Like, I just do better off of it. And so if I open social media, there were certain podcasters that I was allowed to look at because I genuinely was like, research wise, there was there were 2 accounts that I was like, okay, I can open it and I can look at that and then I'm done. And it was awesome. And I realized I had more time. I realized, you know, it was less.
You were focusing more on like reading books, like focusing on that, the scroll time that you have when you go pick up your phone. I've done that too. Like even in my office, like I have like the book I'm reading that I put like on my little couch coffee table because then I'll go pick that up rather than picking up.
Yep, exactly. And so it just with the podcast, it felt like, okay, we have to be on it. And it did feel like it was, you know, real distraction. So we started venting about it to each other. And then we realized like, holy shit, we need to pod about this because some of the things that we immediately started, one of the things that I immediately said when we were having that conversation, I was like, it's just so different to think about my exposure to social media as an old millennial. You know, I just turned 40. Then in comparison to a Gen X or a Gen Z.
Or baby boomer or beyond.
Yeah, no, totally. But just thinking about the fact that, like, in college, so I should actually go before that. So social media, at least from, you know, this isn't research. Well, like this is internet. My perspective. Exactly. The internet, when, you know, we were on AIM as kids.
Yeah.
You know,
and that was
teenagers. And then we were on, I remember being on, in high school, I remember being on AIM. And then in college as well. It was like we used
because
it a lot.
Started off, I remember being in like, I feel like 5th grade, we had gotten email. That was when the internet really, that's like 1998.
Yeah.
Where I remember, because I had a Juno.com, we had Juno.com was our domain email addresses.
Yep.
And I would email with people. Because I remember like my little middle school boyfriend, I would get home and we would email each other back and forth.
Yeah.
And that was when it started. Really, our generation started with that secretive parents don't know what's going on. You know, like even the little POS, parents over shoulder, you know, parents in room, whatever. And then instant messenger comes. But there was that like email chain. Emails were the big thing in middle school before it was AIM. And then it was also having the chat rooms, and people would do like even the digital magazines and stuff.
Yeah, you could chat room with people that you knew, and you could chat room with people just on the internet.
Right.
And then MySpace came about. And I was never on MySpace. I
didn't either.
But there was that borderline of like the old millennials and young Gen X that were on MySpace.
Yeah.
Like I remember some of Lindsay's like
Yeah, no,
roommates
I mean, I had a
were
lot of
on
friends my
MySpace.
age. I just didn't
Yeah.
do it. It wasn't as much of a thing. Again, it's
And it
different
was
when
easy-
it's
it was-
you have to go get on a
say-
desktop computer. It's not as much of a thing that's this instant all the time. Everybody's missing out because it wasn't like at our fingertips.
Exactly.
Like literally, you know?
Exactly. So you would have to go sit at a computer. You would have to be in your parents' living room with the dial-up, and like everybody knew you're getting up and like, you know, like everyone knew you were on it. It was
everybody knows the AOL, the little like gingerbread boy looking.
There was no ease of access because it took time, and your computer, you couldn't. There's no Wi-Fi, so you can't just sit wherever you want.
Well, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I would say you can't just sit wherever you want, and then it's the fact that. Yeah, like you were saying, the parent looking over the shoulder.
But think about in a
was
house.
there.
I was going to say when you mentioned that, because that's a good one. Like, you know, you didn't have the ability to be hidden with it. It was a shared, typically, unless you were rich.
You had to be really rich.
But
'cause
that
they were
wasn't even a
expensive.
thing. Like, usually it was the
just one
maximum. You
house.
had 2 landlines, right? You had like a landline for your home phone and then a landline for the computer.
Yep.
And so we got the I mean, then usually it was everybody kind of had that. You know, it was waves. Like we initially, when we had internet, we had one line. So we'd be like, need you to get off the computer. So the boundaries of
Very naturally
screen
restricted.
usage were naturally restricted with that, with the sharing of it. But then even when we had the 2 landlines, it was our home shared computer. So in our house, you know, we're sharing between 4 kids. So, you know, everybody 30 minutes or whatever you had. But it was more of a you're on the computer, like 2 of us at a time. Maybe we're playing a game or we're...
Exactly. You were doing, oh my God, Oregon Trail.
Yes.
You know, where it was like, like, these were things that, and our parents would really restrict it. Like it was treated like you said, it was treated like TV time, screen time. And it was also known, no matter what you were doing on the internet, the next person was going to see what you did on the internet, you know? And there weren't nearly as many, there wasn't Google. It
You
wasn't
had
easy
to,
just go
I mean,
find
no
stuff.
one was going over to having a slumber party at anybody's house where you are just on the computer. No. Like I remember using the computer at a friend's house.
Totally.
You know, we would go get on for a minute, but it was not, that was like literally not the activity at all.
I remember
we were outside, we were creating dance routines, we were prank calling.
Or if you were on the computer, like I distinctly remember with 2 of my close friends from growing up, the thing that we would be doing on the computer would be like making weird artwork. Like genuinely making
weird artwork. Or we would use like the prank calling, like different little clips and stuff like that. But yeah, it was more innocent. We weren't on there. It just was not so like literally a part of our body like our phone is now.
No, and it's so funny to think too of like we were saying like it was our family, but it was very common to like know that you couldn't have a certain amount of TV. You know, like I feel like that was a very normal thing at everyone's house.
Now there's no boundaries.
Like there's no
feel
boundary because even like we weren't allowed to watch even like The Simpsons. Like and that was very normal. Like
there's a lot of
Donahue. Like
Cease wasn't allowed to watch it either.
But that was so normal. You know what I mean? I feel like it was so like you can watch G and PG. You will watch it in their living room. It will be family time.
Yes.
There was no. It was like a huge deal again because the stuff.
We
was
also
expensive.
didn't even have cable until we were in high school.
Right.
So we were watching. It was watching network analog TV is. The content for kids is only on at certain times.
Oh, yeah.
So there is no option.
So Saturday morning cartoons was a real thing. It wasn't.
We
just
watched
like,
Oprah at 4.
Yeah.
Saturday morning cartoons. And then if we didn't have sports practice or something, we would watch like Sweet Valley High after school.
Well, and we would sneak Seinfeld because Mom and Dad were home and we fucking loved it.
And they didn't.
They didn't really care because
and
they,
like
the
Friends
things that
reruns.
Because the things that we shouldn't understand that they were saying on those shows went straight over our heads.
Yeah, we were just
no clue. Like I
whatever.
remember one time I said bastard to Mom because I heard it on Seinfeld and I didn't know bastard was a bad word and she was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Or like when Mimi, we were watching Friends reruns, and since Mimi is so much younger, you know, she's 11 years younger than me. We hated when we were like, if Mom and Dad were like, turn it off, not appropriate for her kind of thing. And so we would just not, and we'd let it ride. I remember one time Mom was at work and we were watching Friends and one of them said something about a condom, and I remember like, it was a joke, and like the studio audience, how it's like the laughter. Totally. We all start laughing, and then I remember Mimi goes to Dad, "What's a condom?" And he goes, "It's a fish." I'm dead. She was literally like young. I'm talking. Yeah. She was like Angel's age.
Yeah, she's 3. Like 4 at best.
Yeah, she was like,
no need to
she was a toddler.
That.
Yeah, we were losing our shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's things, but like you said, our generation, we really grew up with the internet, and then social media with Facebook started.
Yeah, with the what we now call social media, because again, that was social to go on the chat rooms and and stuff, but what was now really known as social media, the big ones, was Facebook. When Facebook started with Facebook, and when that came out, I was in college, and
so this was like 2005.
Mm-hmm. And I was a junior, and Duquesne was the college I went to, Duquesne University, and we were one of the first schools.
Yeah, it wasn't all colleges at first.
No,
there was a
select few. There was a small number of schools that were allowed to get on. Duquesne was for some reason selected. So we all, like, I remember me and my 2 best friends, I remember sitting around, and we were like, they had accounts first, and they're like, you got to create an account. And I was like, okay, I'm going to create this account. I remember sitting there at my desk. We'll never forget this moment. I have such a bad memory. And I am looking at it, and I'm looking at other people, and I'm like, I literally said out loud to myself, this is so weird. This is so dumb. Like, I was so wrong in where it was going to go, but I was not wrong in how weird.
Well, and obviously
harmful.
At the time,
it was just so bizarre.
Right. But at the time too, when it came out, like you said, the big one was first it was only a couple of colleges, but then it was because a year later when I then enter college, freshman year, I started, fall of 2005 is when I started college. Mm-hmm. And you had to have a .edu email address.
Yes, to get on.
To be able to get on. So, which meant it really was a social network for college students, because not every school, but like a big school, like I went to Towson, so it's a big Maryland state school, that you only had your email. You didn't get to keep your email address like some schools do. You lose your email address like within, I don't know, a couple months of graduating or something. Okay. So there was that piece. But I remember by the end of my freshman year, because I remember friends of mine that were still seniors in high school, we were like, oh man, now high school students have Facebook.
Yes, I remember that too.
And we started, because I remember people's prom photos and stuff, like being on there. And so.
Which is so interesting you say that, because I forgot about that moment where we were annoyed.
Yeah, we were pissed.
We were annoyed when the high schoolers could get on, and then we were doubly annoyed when everyone could get on.
Yeah, then we're like, great, because it was like, to your point,
it changed.
We started off in this chat room AIM world with social, where it was for our age group, where we felt like it was. We had our own little grouping. And then, so this was like, there's no blockers here. Our parents are going to be on here. Grandparents are going to be on here. Whoever the hell. And then also people, too, that you're like, I don't know you. Why are you friending me?
Right. And so, and it was very, I don't remember, this would actually be a good Google. I don't remember if public profiles were a thing or not.
It wasn't.
Because I was going to say, I remember
for a while it was within your school.
Yeah. But I'm also saying, I don't ever remember there being a time when I thought like, until it was like, I mean, like everyone had these public profiles, but I don't remember ever thinking that anyone was going to see my photos, other than like we would put up, it would be a lot of albums of like, I went on this beach trip with my girlfriend, so we put the album up.
And for the youth who don't know, or the people that didn't, maybe you got on Facebook later, you didn't have it in that college age group.
Yeah.
I remember going out like Thursday night, Friday night, and then what you would do the next day, you would get out your digital camera, because my freshman year, I had a flip phone. The only people that had like any kind of like internet smartphone is if you had a BlackBerry that had BBM, BlackBerry Messenger, or if you had a Sidekick, and you could have AIM on there as well.
And that was was fancy.
That was fancy. You had a Sidekick, you were like, woo.
Yeah.
But you would upload your photos from the night before. Literally take your USB cable, put it into your.
Yep.
So nothing was instant. I wasn't even able to upload a photo while I'm at a bar.
There was never a fear that I'm getting recorded. There was never a fear that You
It
know,
was way more curated.
yes, very curated. And we, God, because this is making me think then to that time that we went out, the mom's night when we went out recently.
Oh, yeah.
And it was me, Stacy, our older sister, Lindsay, and then our friend. And we're saying mom's night because Stacy was like, I'm taking the moms out because everyone was a mom.
Yeah,
Stacey.
got him drinks. We went out dancing.
And so we go out and we're out we purposely went to the Gen Z. Like,
we just wanted,
always a young place.
We just needed a dance moment.
Always have a good DJ. They have for like 20 years. So we go out, we're dancing, and we're looking around. I mean, I am doing my full, it was great DJ. I'm doing my full, I'm jumping.
Yeah, we are in college.
We're in college.
The dance floor's lit. Like nothing is stopping
There
us.
were people on the floor, but they were very reserved.
They were watching us, and it wasn't like it was crazy, but there was not a lot of dancing.
No.
There was a lot of, looking.
It was like being very
selfies.
aware. Even when I didn't see people on their phones, it was like this, because they almost were so conditioned to being so aware that someone else might be on their phone. Someone else might be recording you.
And just like how we were just saying
because we did ask Mimi about that, and she said that that's very normal.
Yes. That just how we were saying when we had Facebook, where we're using, before we have smartphones and we're using a digital camera and then uploading our photos the next day. And we are selecting which photos we're going to upload to the album. The album also, they always had a title, right? You'd be like, Night Out with the Girls, or like Drunk on a Thursday.
Yeah, St. Pat's.
But so we're able, I wasn't typically, some people could go home and do it that night, but I wasn't usually in a drunk mindset. I was usually sober then picking these photos.
Exactly.
So it's also that where we were curating it to be like, I'm actually having conscious thought and it's delayed. I'm not doing it when I'm messed up. I'm doing it when I'm sober. Now people are curating their lives, like the Gen Zers we saw at that night dancing. They're curating it to be like, I'm having a great time. I'm out. And we're like, you're not living. You're literally not experiencing it. You're not here. You are not present.
No. It's very strange.
It's sad because
they're missing out.
And they literally don't know what they're missing out on, which is sad. And you see these articles that come out, and not to jump too much, but I just thought of that, how I was watching something the other day, or was reading an article, and it was talking about how this one family, they had a 12-year-old son, they decided no cell phones until you're 8, or no social media. No, it was phone. It was phone. It was no smartphone until you are, I'm pretty sure they were like going to college, and maybe on social media. So I think they just you can have a flip phone. Just basically you had what we had.
Yeah.
You had a flip phone. You have a way to communicate.
Yeah.
And the son, the reporter asked the family, how was he receptive to these rules? And they're like, well, he knew that these were always going to be the rule. This was the rule. He wasn't asking us for it because he knew don't ask. But he didn't mind it. And then he even said, I was grateful that my parents created this rule because
he had an excuse to tell people, my parents.
But not even. He said, well, once my friends started getting phones, and he was 12, I felt like I was losing friends because it went from we're talking at lunch to then anytime someone got a phone, they weren't engaged, they weren't talking, they just want to be on their phones. They go to, even our cousin, she has, her daughter is 14. And
oldest is 14, the younger one
is 12. And where they have smartphones, but they don't have social media and they don't care about it. And she was even saying that, at a recent sleepover, her oldest was like, she had things to do the next morning too, knew she was going to have to get up very early to go play sports and whatnot. But she was like, man, I was just kind of over it being there because all they wanted to do was make TikTok videos.
Yeah.
And so she was like, can you just come pick me up?
Yeah. But that's, and the sad thing is, we've all seen the many doctors and, psychologists recently that have been really talking about this of, the negatives of social media. And it is just that. It's so sad.
And obviously we're using it. Me, and you, Morgan,
totally.
Stacey, Morgan, but it's that we see the world without it, the world slowly getting introduced to it. We remember a before and an after, and that's the difference. So we, it's just like if you're someone that
but the kids have also said that they don't want to be on it. Like there have been studies done where doctors would say, oh, if I took your social media away tomorrow, what would that be like? Oh my God, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Well, what if I took everyone's social media away? Oh, that'd be awesome.
Exactly. And that's the thing. They don't want to feel left out, the kids, but it is also not just a leaving out. It's addictive. Mm-hmm. They say that it's a dopamine hit when you are on your phone and you're literally like the likes and things. I mean, it's an algorithm, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and Meta that owns Facebook and Instagram, they're using these algorithms to get smarter about how their users behave and interact with this digital product with the goal of keeping people where they are.
Well,
in the application.
In the application. So it's that, yes. And that's how these social media companies, these tech companies, Meta, they're trapping us in it in a sense. But it's also that the kids want to get off it, not just because it's addictive, but because they're not happy. They're less engaged. They're not living in the world. Yeah. They're not exposed to what's really going on around them.
Yeah.
And they realize it and they know it. And it is causing anxiety. It's causing these. So,
but yeah. You know what's interesting too? Because there is, like we were saying at the beginning when we got on Facebook, it was, like we said, you could only be in college, EDU, but even when it was open up to everybody, it wasn't the same. It was, you could buy targeted ads, but you weren't getting served like recommended content.
No.
So I was only seeing
you actually really had
what
to
I wanted to see.
People.
Yeah. And if I didn't want to see somebody, I could, limit the profile or unfriend them, whatever. But I got on Facebook the other day, which I don't really use that often.
Totally.
I keep it really more because there's different family, groups and stuff. And I was scrolling for the homepage. I'm like, literally none of these are people that I know. And it wasn't people that I know, meaning I'd friended a long time ago. It was random content. Because the algorithm. Oh my gosh.
I just don't use it.
Literally the feed, it's just tons of. So I think about that too. If I'm a high school student and I'm getting on this social media, or I'm a middle schooler or a 7-year-old, I don't know, some people are on this really young. The stuff you're seeing too that kids have to deal with right now, the noise. Like, think if you're a kid that was in COVID, in quarantine, working, going to school from home, and your only connection to the outside world is social media, and you can't help but to also see these adults with these opposing views that are arguing about mask mandates and this and politics and this, and also you don't know what's real.
Well, all of those things, but also think of this. Think of the millennial, and I don't know, I can speak from my experience, but think of the millennial body dysmorphia that we have from baby. We laughed about it through like our Baywatch episode. Go back and watch and listen. But how we idolize those women, and everyone we post the episode. So many people were like relatable. Like I, did same,
we all
Baywatch
were
too.
watching it.
I say that because we had body dysmorphia simply from seeing Yasmin Bleeth and
Pam Anderson.
Pam Anderson and these, and these beautiful women that were on the cover of these magazines. We were getting... Oh,
we were the Kate Moss generation. We're skinny.
We were getting screwed up just from magazines, from Teen Vogue and InStyle.
Right.
And...
Which heavily retouched like the way they are now.
No, and there wasn't even the technology to do it as heavily. And you had to have money and physically go and buy the magazine, or it was getting sent to your house and it was a once a month thing. This was not having at your fingertip in any moment of any day, basically saying new in style every 30 seconds. New in style, have access to. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but even worse too,
so
because
you
like
have
you're
more
saying,
extreme body dysmorphia because it seems like everyone around you, and because of the access to social media and then influencing other people. Look, people wanted to have, like you said, they wanted to have the heroin chic look when it was cool for Kate Moss. Just like right now, they all want to have the, the lip fillers and the big butt because it's cool because of the Kardashians. This isn't shade, this is fact. So, but think of it because it seems like we didn't know who else was actually being impacted physically by Kate Moss, because all we saw were Kate Moss and her 10 friends.
Yeah, and we saw the people we were around.
We were around.
And exactly like you're saying, when you saw young people, if it was like, young people in like real life, I'm using
I
air
wasn't
quotes, reality
seeing
TV
young
wasn't
kids
a thing.
in LA.
The closest
Exactly.
thing to reality TV was The Real World and TRL, where we were seeing like, you know, people our age in their element, right?
Element, yeah.
But the other thing is it's that big piece too, because the influencers that are the 12-year-old, that is the dance influencer, that's 10 years old and has the contoured cheeks and
12,
the
talk
sports
about,
bra and the
yeah.
highlighted abs and like the self tanner and
when they're on there buying
you're
the toys
comparing
and opening
yourself.
toys, and you're comparing yourself not only physically, but these are children now
Right.
that have these, you know, YouTube,
But
social
you're-
media
yeah, but you're
influencers
seeing
account.
that
No, but
child
I'm
that's
saying-
your age,
Right,
and
you're
you're like-
seeing that child that's your age, and whether it's the physical, like whether you're a little boy that's like, oh, I see him with his shirt off playing with a super soaker, or it's the, oh, he has 4 super soakers.
right.
We were not exposed to any of that. You were hanging around other kids that were in the same monetary demographic.
Right.
There was no understanding of like,
Well,
I mean-
that is a good point, because that is huge. Even just from, again, I say that Mimi, our younger sister, is 11 years younger than me, right? So the time I remember when she was in elementary school, I did this project when I was in college, and I had taken this cultural studies class. It was called Cyberspace and Communications. And the class was talking just about that, you know, like how the internet can influence things and rhetoric and all the things. And in this class, we had talked about this concept called McDonaldization, which is basically the idea of copycats, that we all want to, you know, be like the other, not we all, but the influence of branding. And at the time, you know, this is, again, let's call it between 2006 and 2009 when I was in college. And I did my report on this McDonaldization theory. And I remember using photos of Mara and her friends that in part of my slideshow of them wearing like all these brands. And she was like a second grader at this time.
Yeah.
Go back to when I'm in second grade, you don't see that. We didn't care about the brands. I mean, I remember even the cars, who would come to pick Mara up at school, what people were driving, you know, the luxury bags, like those things existed, but just like with wealthier people who knew of those brands, you were
getting
seeing
that
the
when you
LV and the C's.
you actually
and
had
the
to go
Gucci.
to a yacht club. And,
Yeah, you had to be in it.
Wealthy
How would
world.
you know about that
Right.
stuff? And so now, like you're saying, it's presented to you every day, and we all know.
And it's in quotes
the
made to look
purchasing power.
normal.
People talk about, you know, Taylor Swift and the Swifties and how she has such impact. And yeah, she has, you know, it's majority women are her demographic, but because her music is like, quote unquote, you know, clean, it's not like explicit.
And everyone can listen, yeah.
Everyone can listen. So teen girls, that's the target age demographic. It's like they have parents.
God,
there's
it's like our
unlimited
Yucca
spending,
episode
it's
with the
all
creams.
extra. Yeah, but they always talk about that. So how that demographic, you find a sweet spot that, you know, tweens and teens like, boom, you're golden. I mean, look at all the trends. Look at the Stanley Cups. That's women and teen girls.
Yep.
Right? And so with social media, like you're saying, that we have these influencers, not only is it, oh, I don't look like that. You know,
I don't
my body looks
have
different.
that. I
She's
don't get to
16,
go to that
I look
place.
big. I have hips, or I have this. But yeah, I don't have that. That's not unique to children.
No.
That's all of us.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it.
Totally.
I had a girlfriend who I remember when she was pregnant and it was her first baby, and she was like, you know, I've got to be honest, I need a social media break. And I was like, oh yeah. At the time, I was locked out of Instagram. I had like, it was such a blessing in disguise. End of 2019, Instagram, I
your
lost my
password
like
got
multi-factor password or whatever, and I had gotten a new phone and I was logged out. And so I don't know if this has happened to anybody. One, you should always use multi-factor authentication, because someone will steal your identity and hack your account. But
and get insurance for your identity being stolen. That's another episode, but just get it. It's
all
cheap.
the things. If you're not using it, you're already too late.
That's not
No,
true.
I'm not kidding.
Too late what?
If you are currently not using multi-factor authentication on your social media, on all your bank accounts, on your app, you are behind, and you absolutely have been hacked.
Oh yeah, but it's not too late. If they
No,
can
I'm
change
just
it.
saying,
Yeah.
like, do it immediately.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
you know. But anyway, so my girlfriend had said, you know, I need a social media break. And at the time, like I said, at the end of 2019, because of me getting this new phone and I lost the password for my Instagram or whatever, I just didn't want to go through the process of me. I thought this is actually a good excuse.
Yeah.
You had to take
I
a
remember you saying
picture
that.
of yourself, a selfie with
right,
a
you
certain
had to
code
submit it.
that Instagram sends to you and like hold it up so they can do face verification that you are who you say you are.
Right.
And I'm like, this just seems just that little bit of, they call it friction in tech.
Yeah.
Just that extra
Lack
little bit
of an
step,
ease of entry.
right, that I have to do. I'm not doing it. So I was locked out. I kept my Instagram. I was locked out. I didn't have access to it for all of 2020. So all of COVID, your girl wasn't there. And it was such a blessing. But I think about, so when my girlfriend said this, I was like, yeah, like it has been huge for me because the comparison, she's like, I'm comparing myself to other pregnant women and how their bodies look and what workouts they're doing. And she's like, the products they're using. She's like, but I also am just buying way too much shit.
I was going to say that exact thing.
She's like, I'm just getting surfaced all these ads.
The biggest bullshit that they do is target new moms that have no idea what you really need. And believe me, you don't need half of that shit.
Right.
I tell people, don't get that. You don't fucking
Right.
need, even goddamn the fucking diaper genies. Stop buying a diaper genie. They all stink. They are going to stink. And if you're emptying your diaper genie out every day, it's a waste. Just literally put the diaper in.
And who wants one of those?
And put it in the trash. You take the literally, and this
Anyway.
is, I have to.
Anyway,
give this-
nobody's used the diaper genie. Don't go into your diaper genie hack. You're like, you just take the diaper, put it in a bag, and put it in the trash can.
We're going to do a full
We'll reset. But it's like, it is, but the consumerism piece, you just buy all the shit you don't need because its intention is to keep you there and it's to make you
Absolutely.
feel bad about yourself, make you spend more. And yeah, there are good things about social media. But if you're a child,
If you're a child, you don't understand how to use and limit yourself to the good things. Like, you really don't. You
Right.
really don't. Because there are definitely things I have absolutely, like, seriously, like some of the hair stuff or just there's actually great parent tips and
Oh,
things.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, these child
also-
psychologists. But a parent and an adult knows how to say, this is my 20-minute social media break, to like
Right.
look at those certain
Right.
things. Whereas a kid is not going to think of that.
Right.
And they're not worrying about, they're not going on and researching child psychology. They're looking at the cool
Yeah.
new top on
they're
whatever.
just scrolling reels. They're
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
And that's why they have a 30-second attention span now. Like all of my friends that are teachers, especially my friends that teach middle schoolers,
Dude.
I'm always shocked. I'm like, I was talking to my coworkers
So
about
sad.
this the other day, a couple of coworkers who have kids that are middle school, early high school. And they were like, yeah, we see it too. They were saying teachers can't even put movies on in class
Oh, no.
because the kids want to fast forward through the movie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so because there's so much. Because
No, they really don't have the.
Yeah, they don't have the
talking to a
attention
teacher.
span.
Yeah, that don't have the attention span.
a couple of friends, and they're amazing teachers. They're like, no, Stacey, you don't understand. I've had to change my curriculum, my lesson plans that I've used, since I've been a teacher. So same as long as I've been, in my
15
career,
years.
15 years. And they're like, because it's the kids don't get it. They're like, sure, some kids did COVID, that made it worse. But they're like, no, even if COVID didn't happen, their social media usage is this shorter attention span. They don't want to learn it. It's not that they don't want to learn it. They just
well,
literally
and
can't.
they're literally changing. This is not a joke. They're changing the grades for students. So where, what was it? A 90 and above was an A. Yeah.
No, in public school, it usually is 93. Or no, sorry. You're right.
No,
90.
90
When we were in
above.
private school, it was 90.
Yeah, they've changed it. They're dropping it to like, or at least they're lobbying to drop it to like 84 or something insane. Swear to God, because they want.
What is that going to do?
Well,
Everybody gets a trophy?
They're trying to mask it so like these kids can still get into school, but like it's fucking weird as shit. But my point is, because that's a whole other podcast, is that's where we are. That the kids are not even able to hit a B or hit an as it was an 80 or a 90.
But,
that they're changing they're changing the structure of grading.
And that's what really drives you nuts. It's just like, so the majority of your waking day, right? For an adult, like my Joe always says to me, if you're not happy at work, you're not going to be happy in life, because that's the majority of your day is going to be spent working. So you got to figure out that balance. So for a kid, majority of their day is spent
School.
at school or,
Doing their
after school
activities,
care
sports,
or then
yeah.
in sports or whatever. And so just like, again, I had a cell phone when I was 16, a flip phone, like an old Apple computer, green and black screen. Only game on it was the Snake game. It was like I wasn't allowed to use it during high school.
No, and that's what's interesting to me too, because I distinctly remember because millennials begin with our older sister, Lindsay,
Yep.
who's 42, and there was like no access to an affordable cell phone when she was no one had a cell phone when she was in high school.
It was like
and
an
it was
emergency burner phone almost.
Yeah, but they didn't even have that. That's what I'm saying. I was the first, and many of my friends, we were the first to have that safety cell phone because we started to drive.
Yeah.
So there was just no understanding of anything.
Yeah, it really was your group of friends. Like
yeah,
high
and
school
the
class of
limitation. So the
2002
cell
that had
phone.
cell phones.
Yeah, so the cell phone. It wasn't just that. Like you're saying, the Snake game. There was zero texting.
Lindsay didn't have a cell phone when she went to college. She was using a landline in her dorm.
And I was using a landline in my dorm too. And this is why, because even though we had a cell phone, the minutes were so tracked that you genuinely only, even my friends, when we had cell phones, we never called each other on our cell phone.
Yeah.
You would call each other on your cell phone when you 100% knew you weren't at your parents to make sure everybody was in on the same lie that you were going to this sleepover rather than.
Right. And I remember
you
we
were
had
not,
Sprint. I
you were
used to
still
call my
calling your
friends that had
parents.
Sprint because we had Sprint to Sprint.
Sprint to Sprint, and you could be unlimited.
And Mom did that too. Then when we went away to school, she could call. There was no long distance. She could talk to us and wouldn't have to pay for it because it was in the same network.
Exactly. But thinking of that too makes me think of to the point of having to still call, even when we had phones in high school, to still call your friends' parents. You had to call a landline.
Yeah.
And I'm flashing to that recent clip on social media of the kid having this teenager, a high schooler.
I need to take a drink because that was hard for me to watch. I was like,
okay, so
wow.
let me set this up for everyone. This mom is trying to show and expose to like the level of where
This was like an 18-year-old.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. This was someone who's definitely minimum of 16, somewhere between 16 and 20.
In my mind, I was thinking, okay, we're preparing him for college.
It was college, yeah, something like that. So let's say he's 18. And they're videoing him, and she has prepped him on, you need to call the dentist and make your, that makes sense because she was like prepping him, you're going to be on your own, you got to make your own appointments. Yeah. And he did not know how to call. He has a total freak out panic.
So the only thing he literally did was he's like dials the number, and then he like puts it on mute. It's like, what do I say? What do I say?
Yeah, even though they had already practiced, like didn't know how to call. And this is the reason is because not only are they only texting, they don't call each other. When they do call, they only FaceTime. You're not having to even use that we have multiple senses. The auditory sense of, let me just pay attention with my ears, hear what this person's saying. Doesn't need to be this FaceTime thing.
Right. And this attention, I need buzzers going off.
Yes, I need the screen in front of my face. Couldn't do it. And so I'm flashing to that, thinking of, we had to, as soon as you had a friend that you were conscious of, I like this person and I want to talk to them or I want to set up a play date, you were calling. I could rattle off all my friends from growing up, their parents' phone numbers right now.
Same.
Because, and not only did it make you need to know how to say, hi, Mr. Smith, can Sam come to the phone? Da-da-da. You also were aware that Mr. Smith might randomly pick up the phone and hear what you're saying because they need to use the phone. There was so many things. There was zero ease of entry, and it was constant exposure to adults.
And then so your parents on that note too, they were like, they knew like, oh, you were talking to Susie a lot, or your little, middle school, high school boyfriend.
I know you were on the phone.
They knew what you were doing.
There
and
was
also, you always could pick up that other end of the landline and be
Exactly.
like, oh, yep, she really is talking to Susie.
Exactly. There was never a question about who you were talking to and what you were doing. And that sort of started to change with chat rooms. And then it sort of started to change when, you could friend request someone that you didn't know. But there was still not an ease of entry because it wasn't in our pocket.
Yep.
And, so then it makes me think of the other big thing of this is just the sex piece of it.
Oh,
the
yeah.
sexuality
I know. When you
piece.
were saying body image, I was thinking, yes, how we as millennials, we all had body images. No, I shouldn't say we all, but okay, we did. Body images.
I don't know.
Body
I don't know
images
one
were-
friend that
yeah,
didn't
I don't
have body
either.
image. Not
If you're a
one
girl,
friend.
and that's the thing, if you're a woman without social media, life is about comparison. We all know it. Comparison, competition. Oh, we don't need another look at her.
We were
my
only,
thighs look different.
Yep,
My
you were
I
only
was
aware of the girl
comparing
in your own
myself
class.
so much
Yes.
to the girls around
you.
And especially like we talked about in other episodes, being, othered and being the only black girl in my friend group, I had hips always.
Oh, yeah.
I had thighs always. Started getting boobs earlier than my friends. Now I'd be like, oh my God, so the body image thing. But then dating, sex, we didn't literally, we learned what sex was from, at least me. I literally learned what sex was from
older,
what they call it at Mother Seton, where we went to elementary and middle school, family life.
Oh, yeah.
Family life is where I literally understood what the act of sex was.
Well, it was that, and it was also older siblings or
Yeah.
or your friend's older siblings.
Friends,
that
older
would be like,
yeah,
you
it was
don't know
word
what a
of mouth.
blowjob is?
Yeah, exactly.
It was exactly the way you should be learning about it
Right.
from your jackass.
Yeah, you should be learning about it from a 12-year-old or a 14.
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying
But
just like everybody always
way
says. You're
better
talking
than
about
going to
stuff
Google
and, yes.
and going what sexual intercourse and then going to YouPorn or Pornhub and watching it there and thinking,
and then having no understanding.
that's sex.
Yes, that's sex. And these women that are faking orgasms,
Right.
that hate their lives. I mean, you can go and Google it right now. Interviews of, porn stars that were only porn stars for like a year. That were like, it was the most miserable thing ever. That was all acting. There's no
but
real
also,
orgasms.
So you have that too in the porn industry where, again, not to go down that rabbit hole of how talk about, sex trafficking and all that. But in Hollywood, anytime you see a sex scene, two parts to it. One, the sex scene is always fake. Literally, you always see, how it is 2 seconds. Okay,
She's orgasming.
Never touching a clit, and everybody's, we're orgasming. It's great. It's bullshit. And it has misled so many men, and it has made so many women have terrible sex lives. But now they're like, I want to see what it really is. And so they're going to porn thinking, I'm actually seeing it. This is what it is. And it's like, no, that's even more fake than Hollywood.
Oh,
of the, it's just.
Because at least the Hollywood stuff, we all know they're not going to, you're not going to zoom, you're not going to have a porn in a movie. That would be completely insane, know? So I think there was always the understanding of like, this isn't real.
Right.
But then when you think you are watching something real and you're a teenage boy that now flash forward 10 years later, you've only ever watched porn and now you can't get off without porn. That's very real.
That's very real.
And
very
to
real.
think of, I'm literally thinking of like the things that I was exposed to as, a middle schooler were walking into, oh my God, with some of my girlfriends, we go into GT's, is this gas station.
Oh my God.
And the dad of our friend was like, I'm going to pick up, we're getting chips and stuff for the movie night. I'm going to grab the movie and the chips and hang here. And then we'll go, we'll meet at the car. So we start getting into trouble in the store. We find the Playboys and the Playgirls.
Dead.
And he's like, girls, what are you doing? Like when he comes to find us, we're looking at these pornos. But even that, we had to go. It was we couldn't get away with it. It was
you're literally in front. You're in a public area.
In a public area.
The parent is there.
He
it's a
sees
magazine.
Us.
It's only still images.
It's only still images. And it's known what's going on and it's immediately talked about and handled because I can't hide it.
Right. I can't imagine now. And just thinking to middle school too, where, you're learning about all that things, body's awkward, hormones, and you have, we were girls that always loved inappropriate stuff, thought it was funny.
Totally.
But I'm just thinking now too, middle school boys, like not even on the social media side, but just having access to that and what gets shared. But I'm thinking of stuff too, because I remember when the first flip cameras started coming around when I was in, you could still send an image, but it was super pixelated, not
you could
clear.
barely see it. Yeah.
And I'll never forget when there was someone I went to high school with. A guy got a picture of a naked photo of a girl that went to our high school as well, and that thing circulated like wildfire.
Yes.
And it was a
it's the
grainy,
same.
pixelated, literal thumbnail image. And again,
And she probably was mortified. And it was a
yeah,
grainy, pixelated thumbnail.
right. And it went around like everybody, it was no way to stop it. And then it's like now, like we talked about with the putting the images out there, but like everything's so instant. You don't need Facebook. You could text it on a phone. You know, you could send it out right away on Snapchat. But yeah, but the sex part, I think about that too with, you know, youth, but also adults. I mean, that's a thing. You hear the articles and stuff where men can't, and I'm sure women too, but I'm sure it's predominantly more men.
Probably more men, yeah.
Where they seriously can't have sex. They can't get off without watching porn.
So fucking crazy.
I've known from friends of mine, different, you know, our dating stories when we were on the apps of like a guy asking a friend of mine, basically like, can I put this porn on while we're having sex? Because I need this.
I'm shocked. I mean, I shouldn't be shocked, but I'm floored.
Oh, and I know of other guys where I'm like, again, everybody can have their issues, and I'm not a man, and I do know that the same thing we talk about. Like part of the reason for this pod, we like to talk about things that we get to in our sister circle that people don't get to. And I've talked to some of my guy friends about it who are like, yeah, guys don't sit down with each other and talk as much about sex or their issues as one might think. And they're like, yeah, if you're not having sex a lot, sure, you can have the normal, you know, could be harder for you to get it up. But there's also
Or like
the dudes
fear of getting
that are
started or
used
whatever.
to using their hand on a computer screen. And they're like, oh, now I think I need Cialis when I don't need it. I need to retrain my brain.
You know, and that's super interesting.
Because I know a lot of
because-
people before the age of 30 that were using Cialis or using it for fun.
Wow. And you know, that's really interesting because I'm sitting here thinking of, God, and it's like, sorry, I was going to flash to like, I was about to say masturbation. I'm thinking of hilarious.
I shouldn't say a lot,
like,
but the fact that I know, I can think of a decent amount of people right now that had to use Cialis or in a
that's
relationship.
insane to me. So, because here's the thing, it's if you are only masturbating to that image and you are not, or those visuals, and you're not able to use your own imagination,
Yep.
then you think that when you're having sex with someone, like, it's very normal to, yes, be present during sex, but also to use your imagination during sex, you know, just to get your mind to run wild so you loosen up so you get to that orgasm phase. So to think that like they don't even know how to use their imagination because there's no practice.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you are not practicing masturbation and learning that way,
Yeah.
to have sex, and then you think
I had
that's
gone on.
crazy.
I've had conversations with men who said, "Oh, well, I can't, you know, complete the act, so to speak."
Yeah, so I'm sure that they could get hard. I'm sure
I
they can have sex, but they
know
can't
the
get off.
issue was that I watched porn too much as a kid.
Wow.
Or I, you know, am used to doing this thing or have this like dependency. But also, I mean, some of that probably could go deeper. They're not like letting their mind get away with it and all the things. But I also think about, okay, so you can think about how what social media does or that access to having a phone, right? Like at your fingertips to the sex part too of what images you see. Because you don't need to watch porn. You can go on social media and it's basically OnlyFans to go on Instagram, you know, of like what images and who might follow you. It's also though with relationships. Like I'm sure everyone has seen the articles that they're also showing in married couples and our generation, people are having less sex because we do have so many people are on their phones all the time. In the evening, they're like, oh, I'll just Netflix, scroll. You know, they're sitting next to their partner. And it was interesting because I was actually listening to the Skinny Confidential, his and her podcast.
So into
right?
it.
For the
Yeah.
Dear Media
I can't
podcast.
Stop. I can't stop binging
And
it.
I think it was a recent episode. It was definitely an episode in July. That Jay Shetty was one of their guests. And Jay was just talking about, I think he was explaining like his wife and connection that they had or something about relationships was the question. But he was just talking about connection in relationships, how you have to make this extra effort and there's a lack in it because people think quality time is sitting with your partner, you know, watching a movie or watching a TV show at the end of the day. And he was like, well, not if it's one, you're not talking, you're watching the show. But you also probably have two, at a minimum, he's like, at a minimum, there are 3 screens involved. The television, and then you each have your cell phone. And he was saying for him and his wife, they'll watch TV and they'll each be on their laptop, you know, working on business stuff and have their phones there. He's like, so there's 5 devices. And I heard that and I'm like, yeah, relatable. Not with the laptops as much, but yeah, like where... You know, Joe and I will too to Joe sometimes too, if we're like doing like a movie night where we're like watching a movie, I will be like, no phones, and I will grab them and I'll go put them in the bedroom.
Oh, totally. I am totally about that with Donahue. If I like realize he's no longer watching the show with me, I'm like, then I'm watching something else.
Yes.
I am putting on Kardashians.
Yes, I do the same thing.
If you are not watching this show with me, I don't want to watch this
I'm always
show.
like, what are you watching? What do you, and I'm using an example.
I do it the same
too.
way. Yeah, I do it too, but like, let's not do it.
But it's such a, like, you're not connecting.
Yeah.
Now, granted,
Sometimes
I also am with Joe
just
24/7.
Right,
Joe,
we're together all the time.
Literally,
you
work from home.
Yeah, totally.
We're here. We don't have a child. Like,
but I get that point that Jay Shetty's making.
Absolutely.
That especially if
we
you
all
are not,
do it. That's not generational.
No,
I see
all
it with
of us.
everybody. And so that is the thing we don't even realize because it is such a slippery slope.